Discover the heartwarming truth: 8 ways countries are uniting for peace instead of war. In the small town of Maplewood, Iowa, change hung in the air like the sweet scent of fresh apple pie, but it brought both promise and unease. Sarah, a hardworking single mother, ran Mama's Place, a diner that had been a cornerstone of the community for decades. The diner was filled with laughter, the clink of silverware, and the aromas of comfort food. Yet, as new upscale cafes and shops began to sprout like weeds around her beloved diner, a wave of anxiety washed over her. Would her legacy, her heart, disappear just like that? Sarah poured her soul into Mama's Place. Every meal served with love, every smile given to the townspeople, every free meal offered to those in need, but with the community at odds, her heart began to ache. Ella, her spirited 10-year-old, often danced around the diner, and Jake, always quiet, would watch in awe, yet the unsettled feeling creeping into their lives shadowed the joy. It was a fine balance, this life they led, merging the love of family with the responsibility of the diner. Then came autumn, the air crisp, bright leaves swirling outside Mama's Place as Sarah opened her mail. The envelope carried news of a competition, a chance to showcase resilience and unity, inspired by international peace efforts. Hope sparked within her chest. This was her opportunity. Not just for Mama's Place, but for Maplewood, a chance to stitch the community's frayed fabric back together, to remind everyone that they were stronger in unity than division. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue with renewed determination. Sarah organized community gatherings, potlucks that brimmed with diverse dishes, storytelling nights where laughter echoed, and volunteer days that brought forth camaraderie. Each event was a chance for people to share their experiences, their struggles. The diner buzzed with joy as people began to connect again, but just when it seemed the tide was turning, everything blew apart. The town hall meeting erupted like a storm, voices raised, accusations flying. Old residents feared losing their way of life while newcomers demanded acceptance. Sarah stood at the edge, her heart racing. The despair in the room wrapped around her like a suffocating blanket. Friends turned away from each other, forgetting the warmth of shared meals and laughter. She needed to stop it. She had to bring them back together. Listen. Sarah's voice cut through the chaos, unwavering and clear. We're all here because we love Maplewood. She spoke of her struggles, her hopes, her family, and the diner they nourished with heart. Can we not embrace our differences? Can we not listen, mend, and celebrate? But as silence fell, uncertainty clung to the air. Would they heed her call, or was the chasm too deep to bridge? The future of Mama's Place and the heartbeat of the town rested in this moment, begging the question, could they find common ground amidst the turbulence? The room buzzed with tension after Sarah's plea, a heavy stillness settling like a thick fog. Eyes shifted, expressions hardened. It felt like the world had paused, all breath suspended in uncertainty. Then, like a crack in a dam, someone spoke up. "That's easy for you to say, Sarah," a familiar voice rang out. Debbie, a longtime resident of Maplewood, her voice tired yet fierce. She waved a hand dismissively. "You don't have to worry about the changes we're facing. You've got your diner. You're safe." The word struck hard, like a gust of wind in the teeth. Sarah's heart raced, anger and hurt intertwined. It was true, she hadn't lived the fear of losing the familiar, the tight-knit community she had always known. But she had fought for every inch of what she built. "I'm fighting for all of us," Sarah shot back, her voice rising with urgency. "This isn't just about me, it's about our home, our future." The silence hung again, palpable and unsettling, but slowly, a murmuring began to rise from the crowd. Some nodded, others frowned. Jake, always quiet, stood at his mother's side, his small hand clutching her apron tightly. Panic flickered in his eyes. Ella, meanwhile, standing by the door, looked between her mom and the crowd, her innocent face pinched with concern. "I'm not saying the changes are easy," Sarah continued, her voice steadier now. "But we can't just turn against each other. We're stronger when we work together. Look at all the love in this room." She motioned to the crowd, "the love we share by supporting one another. Our community can be a place where everyone feels welcome and valued, old residents and new alike." Some people began to soften, eyes glistening with contemplation. Memories of shared meals, holidays, and laughter were powerful reminders of what made Maplewood special. But Debbie wasn't finished. "What about our traditions? Will they just disappear?" A ripple of agreement rustled through the crowd. It was a valid concern, deeply rooted, real. Sarah took a deep breath. "No one wants to erase those traditions. They're part of our identity. But change doesn't mean losing what we cherish, it can mean adding to it. We can blend our old values with new ideas." Another silence, heavier this time, marked with glimmers of hope as uncertainty collided with possibility. One brave hand shot up from the back. It was Mr. Thompson, the elderly school teacher who had seen Maplewood grow and shift over the decades. "I've seen this town transform before, and each time, it got stronger. Maybe it's time for another change we can all be part of." Gradually, the discussions softened from accusations to shared stories. As people spoke about their fears and hopes, the initial spark ignited flickers of camaraderie. A neighborhood potluck to celebrate their differences was suggested, and despite some trepidation, the idea began to take root. Sarah smiled, feeling a rush of warmth. Despite the challenges ahead, she could sense a shift. But she knew this wasn't the end. Overwhelmed with emotion, Sarah whispered a silent thank you that it seemed they were inching closer together. Though the path forward was still unclear, she couldn't shake the feeling that their journey of healing and acceptance had only just begun. As the meeting drew to a close, Sarah glanced at Ella and Jake hugging each other tightly, comforted by their mother's resolve. But just as she began to feel triumphant, the overhead lights flickered, plunging the town hall into darkness for a brief moment. A sharp intake of breath echoed through the room, sudden tension surging back, raising questions anew. What if the darkness returned, this time not just figuratively but literally? What would it take to truly unite them, beyond a single meeting? The thought lingered as they exited, leaving everyone wondering, how deep were their roots in this fight for unity? Outside, the chill of the evening air hit Sarah as they stepped from the town hall. She wrapped her arms around herself, not just from the coolness, but from the uneasy sense that the darkness might be more than just a power outage. Jake and Ella trotted at her side, their laughter ironically bright against the dimming sky. But beneath Sarah's smiles was a knot of worry. "Mom, that was cool," Jake exclaimed, his eyes wide. "You were like a superhero." His admiration brought heat to her cheeks, but it quickly dimmed when she glanced back at the hall. The flickering lights had felt like a warning rather than a glitch. "Yeah, you were great, Mom." "The way you stood up to Debbie," Ella chimed in, her innocent excitement wrapping around Sarah like a warm blanket. "What do you think will happen now?" I hope they start to understand," Sarah said, stepping into the shadow of the diner. "It's not just about me, it's about all of us finding a way to coexist. But it won't be easy." As they approached the diner, a flicker of light from the window caught her attention. Sarah paused, feeling the familiar warmth in her chest as she glanced at the small neon sign flickering above the door. This place had been a sanctuary for so many, a second home. She felt a pull to preserve that hospitality, to remind them all of what truly mattered, community. Later that night, after settling the kids to bed, Sarah sank into the well-worn couch in her living room. The silence was thick, the weight of the day lingering in the air. She thought of the faces in the crowd, each one a complex mix of hope and doubt. The battle was only just beginning, just as she reached for the remote, the phone buzzed, breaking the stillness. It was a text from Debbie. "Can we talk?" Her heart pounded. Sarah frowned, uncertainty creeping in. Was this conversation a denial of everything she had fought for? Or could it be a chance for compromise, a way to heal the rift? With a deep breath, she replied, "Sure." When and where? Minutes felt like hours as she waited. Finally, a reply came, "Tomorrow at the park, 5 p.m. The next day, the sun hung high in a bright blue sky, the air warmer than it had been in weeks. It felt like a new beginning, a chance to mend bridges. Sarah arrived at the park early, her stomach twisting with anticipation. She saw families smiling, children giggling, but her heart was heavy. When Debbie arrived, her expression was cautious, her body language defensive. The words hung between them, thick and heavy. "Why did you want to meet?" Sarah asked, shifting her weight. Debbie looked at the ground, then back at Sarah. "I'm not against the change itself. I guess I'm just scared. I've seen too many good things lost before." The admission hung in the air, an unexpected thread of vulnerability. Sarah felt her own defenses drop. "I get it. But it doesn't have to be that way. Change can mean growth." They launched into a discussion, sharing their stories, their fears, their memories. With each vulnerable moment, the barriers started to dissolve. And just as they turned a corner, laughter erupted nearby. Startled, they looked over to find a group of new residents setting up a picnic, bright tablecloths spread over the grass, laughter spilling into the air. "Maybe this is our chance," Sarah suggested softly, her heart racing. Debbie watched, her eyes sparkling with realization. "Maybe we can all share what we've got." But just then, a high-pitched scream echoed from the playground, breaking their moment. Both women turned sharply, a sudden chill wrapping around Sarah. What was happening? "Come on!" Sarah shouted, her instincts kicking in. They rushed toward the source of the sound, not knowing what they would find. In a community still learning to unite, suddenly, danger loomed. What could it mean for everyone standing on the edge of understanding? Sarah dashed across the park, her heart pounding in her chest. The laughter that had filled the air moments ago faded into an uneasy silence. She could see a small crowd gathering at the playground. The sun, so bright moments before, now felt like a spotlight on a very different scene. "What happened?" She called out, her voice steady despite the rising panic inside her. A little girl, tears streaming down her cheeks, pointed towards the swings. "He fell." Her voice trembled with fear. Without thinking, Sarah pushed through the gathering crowd, her focus sharpening as she reached the bright yellow swings. Young Jamie, one of Jake's friends, lay on the ground, clutching his leg. The brightness in his eyes was replaced by fear, and his whimpers echoed in Sarah's mind like a drumbeat. "Jamie. It's okay, honey. You're going to be all right." Sarah knelt beside him. She reached out, brushing a strand of hair from his forehead, her touch gentle and steady. Jamie looked up, his expression a mix of pain and confusion. Debbie, standing behind Sarah, spoke softly. "We should call for an ambulance," she suggested, her tone steadying the air around them. "No. I don't want an ambulance." Jamie yelped, his face scrunching up. "I just want my mom." "Okay, let us get your mom first," Sarah said, keeping her voice calm. She scanned the crowd. "Who's Jamie's parent?" A few parents stepped forward, worry etched on their faces, and soon Jamie's mom, Lisa, rushed through the gathering, clearly out of breath. "Oh, Jamie." She knelt beside him, her eyes wide with concern. "What happened?" "He fell off the swing," Sarah explained, trying to assess the situation. "He might have hurt his leg." At the sight of his mom, Jamie's whimpers softened. She held him close, her presence soothing his fear. Sarah watched as Lisa cradled her son, and a wave of empathy washed over her. For a moment, the world around them faded away, just a mother and her child. But then the sounds of the park crept back. Debbie stepped closer, her hand on Sarah's shoulder. "You did well. He needed you." But Sarah couldn't shake the feeling of dread. What if it wasn't just an accident? What if then the words escaped before she could swallow them back? What if this pushes us apart again? What if the chance we had to bring everyone together is lost? Debbie met Sarah's gaze, her face a mix of understanding and determination. "We can't let fear control us. We need to focus on what keeps us united," she replied, her voice firm. As Jamie's mom continued to comfort him, Sarah felt a bond forming among the onlookers. They were all parents, all concerned for the well-being of that one child. Sarah's heart warmed at the sight. "There's a lesson here," she murmured, her mind racing. "What if we use this incident to bring us all together, to create stronger ties? We can host something, a community event." Debbie nodded, excitement flickering in her eyes. "An event that reminds us of our shared responsibility for each other." Just then, Jamie let out a soft laugh, a sound that echoed through the anxiety like a bomb. The tension broke, relief surged through the crowd. Sarah could see it now, an event bringing everyone together, a chance to rise from the cracks beneath the playful chaos. But just as the hope began to settle in, another scream broke the moment, this time from a distance, somewhere deeper in the park. "What now?" Sarah whispered, her intuition flaring. The connection they had just started building felt fragile, like a balloon waiting to pop. What lay ahead was uncertain, and with each echo of fear, the question lingered: would it unite them or drive them apart once more? The scream pierced through the park, sharp and raw, sending a chill down Sarah's spine. It was unlike anything she'd heard before, a frantic cry full of desperation. The once vibrant chatter of children playing fell silent, replaced by uneasy murmurs rippling through the crowd. "What was that?" someone asked, their voice trembling. Sarah's instincts kicked in. "We need to check," she said, her heart racing once again. She exchanged a quick glance with Debbie, whose eyes mirrored the urgency she felt. They started toward the source of the sound, weaving through concerned parents and frightened children. A knot formed in Sarah's stomach. What had happened now? One step after another, the grass felt uneven underfoot. The world around them quieted, as if space itself held its breath. As they rounded a cluster of trees, Sarah caught sight of a small group huddled near a picnic table. A tall man hovered over a child, his expression intense. When they reached the scene, Sarah recognized the child. It was Danny, another one of Jake's friends. He was sitting on the ground, visibly shaken, his face streaked with tears. "I didn't mean to," he sobbed, his voice catching on each wave of emotion. "What happened?" Sarah asked, kneeling next to him. "He fell too," he cried, pointing to a nearby skateboard that lay overturned, wheels still spinning slightly. "I thought he could do it. I didn't think. Danny, it's okay. Breathe," Debbie soothed, kneeling opposite Sarah. "Where's Jake?" Danny's eyes grew wide with fright, and he pointed towards the far edge of the park. "He went down the hill. He might be hurt." The world around Sarah spun. Panic overwhelmed her. "We need to find him," she shouted, urgency creeping into her voice. She turned and dashed toward the hill, her heart pounding furiously. The sound of laughter faded into uncertainty as she raced up the slope, each step fueled by fear. What if they were too late? What would happen to Jake? Every thought echoed in her mind. Finally, at the crest of the hill, she spotted Jake lying flat on his stomach, his skateboard beside him, still and silent. "Jake!" she yelled, rushing over. There he was, eyes blinking open, but the look on his face said it all. He was dazed. What happened? His voice was weak, and Sarah's heart ached at the sight of him. "Just hang on, we're here." She knelt beside him. "Did you hurt yourself?" He moved his legs gingerly. I think just my wrist, he winced, trying to lift himself. Everything in Sarah froze for a second, relief washing over her, but it was short-lived. Behind them, the crowd began to gather, whispering among themselves, their voices a murmur of concern. As Sarah looked back, the weight of fear seemed to settle in amongst the parents and children. Would this incident further fracture whatever bond they were trying to build? Would it overshadow the idea of unity they had just started to forge? But even amidst this chaos, something shifted. For all the worry swirling in the air, she could see the glimmers of connection forming. Parents rushed to comfort their frightened kids. A community instinctively began to form. That's it, Sarah thought. This is the moment. If they could rally together now, if they could transform this fear into something that brought them closer, it could change everything. As she turned her gaze back to Jake, holding his hand tightly, determination washed over her. They weren't just a community of people living side by side, they were threads woven together in a tapestry of shared experiences and struggles. What's the next step? Debbie asked, joining her at the hilltop. An event isn't just about fun, Sarah replied, voice steadying. It's about resilience. It's about healing. We have to harness this moment, this chaos, and turn it into something beautiful. But just as hope flickered to life, a siren echoed from the street. A police car approached the park, lights flashing in a cacophony of red and blue. What now? Sarah wondered, her heart racing once more. This was just the beginning, but what awaited them could change everything yet again. Sarah's eyes widened as the police car pulled up, its sirens cutting through the tension in the air. The flashing lights reflected off the worried faces surrounding her, casting an eerie glow that only intensified their fear. She could feel the vibrations of uncertainty ripple through the gathering crowd. What would the authorities say? Would they see this as just a simple accident, or would they overreact and shut the park down? Is Jake okay? A mother shouted from the back, her voice laced with panic. Yes. He just needs to catch his breath, Sarah called back, trying to soothe the crowd while her own heart raced. She couldn't afford to show fear. Not now. Not when they needed clarity and courage. Jake shifted slightly, examining the faces of those who were now drawn to him. I'm fine. Really, he managed to say, though the tremble in his voice gave away his uncertainty. Just a bit dizzy. Debbie leaned closer, brushing a hand across Jake's forehead. You scared us. Promise me you'll be careful next time. I promise, Jake replied, looking up at her with a half-hearted grin. But that grin faded as he felt the attention of the crowd weighing down on him. Was he really okay? The worry swirling around was palpable. A tall officer emerged from the police car, her expression serious but not unkind. What happened? She asked, kneeling down to meet Jake's eyes. There was something reassuring about her presence that began easing the tension. Sarah stepped forward. He fell off his skateboard. He's hurt a bit, but I think it's just his wrist. The officer nodded, glancing at the skateboard. Kids should wear helmets and pads while riding. It's not just fun, it's about safety, she stated, keeping her gaze steady on the boy. You're going to be okay, right? Jake nodded, swallowing hard, his gaze darting back to the concerned faces around him. The officer smiled warmly. Good. An ambulance will be here shortly just to check on you. Sometimes it helps to get a professional opinion, especially after a fall. Just then, Sarah felt a gentle touch on her shoulder. She turned to find Danny standing there, worry etched across his face. I'm so sorry, Sarah. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I thought it would be fun. I know, Danny. Accidents happen, and you were trying to have fun. That's what matters, she reassured him, squeezing his hand tightly. You care about your friends, and that's important. But as the siren faded into the background, Sarah felt an urgency stir within her. Yes, this moment had the potential to unite them, but they needed to do something. They needed to take action not just for Jake, but for all the kids, all the families here who wanted to embrace the fun while also protecting their loved ones. What if we set up safety workshops? Sarah suggested, her voice rising with enthusiasm. We could teach kids how to ride safely. And maybe even organize regular events to encourage everyone to get involved, so we don't just panic but come together as a community. Debbie's eyes sparkled like a light bulb going off. That could work. A park full of safety awareness, fun and connection. We can get parents involved too. Hesitation flared in Sarah. Would the idea catch on? Would the support be there? But as she scanned the crowd, she saw hopeful nods and brightening smiles lighting their faces. What do you say? She asked the crowd, her voice steady. Who's with us? A cheer echoed back, stronger than she anticipated. The spark of connection began to glow brighter, but just as the excitement rose, a voice cut through from the back. Well, what if nobody comes next time? What if it's just another event that falls flat? Sarah's heart dropped. The seed of doubt had been planted, and it threatened to overshadow the hope she had just ignited. Wasn't community about more than just gathering together? What if they couldn't hold on to this moment? With that lingering question hanging in the air, Sarah understood this journey was only beginning. And the real test lay ahead. A murmur swept through the crowd, each face reflecting a mix of enthusiasm and doubt. What if nobody comes next time? The question hung in the air like a heavy fog, wrapping around Sarah's resolve. Jake shifted uncomfortably, the momentary spotlight weighing on him. Maybe we could offer prizes? He suggested, his voice gaining strength. You know, for the kids who join the safety workshops? Coupons for ice cream or something. The group chuckled lightly, and the tension broke slightly. Sarah's heart swelled. Kids had this unique ability to cut through anxiety with simple ideas that brought joy. Great idea, Jake. Sarah beamed. And we could have local businesses sponsor the prizes. They'd get some good publicity too. A few heads nodded in agreement. It felt like the mood was shifting, but that other voice was still digging in her mind. How could she keep this momentum? What if their plans fizzled? What would happen to their connection then? Debbie stepped forward, sensing Sarah's hesitation. Why don't we make it a neighborhood challenge? The more kids who attend, the bigger the event gets. Directors from local schools could help spread the word. We'll even throw in food trucks. Everyone loves food trucks. Sarah smiled at Debbie, her dose of optimism infectious. With every suggestion, a new layer of excitement filled the air. They weren't just gathering, they were planning something special. Something that could keep them together, even in uncertainty. The sirens faded, and the ambulance doors swung open. A medic stepped out, looking almost casual despite the fearful scene before her. She approached Jake and crouched down, her face gentle. Hey there, buddy. Mind if I check your wrist? Jake nodded obediently, sending a glance back to Sarah, who nodded in encouragement. As the medic carefully examined him, Sarah felt the crowd start to disperse slightly, inching closer to their initial excitement. She could see families chatting animatedly about the workshops, parents voicing ideas. Let us meet again next week, she proposed, her confidence bubbling up. We can brainstorm more, spread the word, figure out how to put this all into motion. Who's in? A chorus of agreement erupted, bringing extra warmth to her heart. Sarah couldn't help the smile breaking across her face. But just as cheers filled the air again, an old man at the fringes of the crowd cleared his throat, drawing attention. You're all talking about safety and events, but these things usually fade. Hope can be fleeting. How do you plan to keep it alive? His words echoed through her. She couldn't shake the feeling of fragility. The moment felt too precious to be easily dismissed or forgotten. It's a journey, Sarah began, her voice steady. If we all commit to showing up, reaching out, trying our best, we can make something real. We won't let it fade. The man nodded slowly, impressed but still skeptical. Jake spotted the paramedic writing on a notepad. Are you done yet? He asked, eager to get back to his friends. Almost done, just a couple more checks, she replied, focusing on him. As Jake's gaze darted toward the growing group, Sarah realized it was more than just an idea brewing, it was becoming alive. The foundation of something beautiful was being laid, anchored by their shared experiences, both joyful and scary, but as they all shared their ideas and hopes, a new concern crept into Sarah's mind. What if their plans untangled in the chaos of life? Would they stay together through the highs and lows? Just then, she caught sight of someone in the crowd, a person she hadn't expected to see. Fear and warmth battled inside her as they met eyes, a face from her past that carried heavy memories. With her heart pounding in her chest, Sarah took a deep breath. Was this unexpected presence here to uplift or to sow seeds of doubt? This moment could change everything. Sarah's mind spun as she locked eyes with the familiar face across the crowd. It was Mike, her childhood friend, who had once been like a brother to her. They had shared laughter, secrets, and dreams, but time and choices had pulled them apart like branches on a wind-tossed tree. She hadn't seen him in years, not after he left the neighborhood and went down a path that eventually led to trouble. The crowd around her faded, their voices muffled against the rush of memories flooding in. The street, once buzzing with hopes and plans, was now overshadowed by the weight of her past. She could feel the knot tightening in her chest, an uncomfortable mix of nostalgia and concern. What was he doing here? Mike took a hesitant step forward, his expression unreadable. The old man from before, who had questioned their commitment, now stood behind Sarah, glancing between her and Mike as if sensing the storm brewing within her. Sarah, his voice was soft but tinged with apprehension. Is that you? She nodded, swallowing hard. Yeah, it's me. I heard about what you were doing. He glanced around at the gathering, eyes searching for something familiar. I'm glad to see you're involved with the neighborhood again. She could hear the genuine tone in his voice, but the doubt lingered in her heart. You've been gone for a long time, Mike. Why are you back now? He shifted his weight awkwardly, as if trying to find the right words. I came to visit some old friends, but I heard about the incident. I know I messed up in the past, and I let you down. Everyone was watching. The crowd had quieted, eyes darting between them. Sarah felt exposed under their scrutiny. You did leave us behind, Mike. Things weren't the same after you left. I know. I've been thinking about it a lot lately. I wish I could change things. I'm trying to make amends. Something in his eyes spoke of genuine regret, and it pulled at her heart, but cautious hope wove through her. Could they really reconnect after everything? Jake, oblivious to the weight of their conversation, bounded up to her, a huge smile plastered on his face. Sarah. Did you see how they all reacted? They want to make this work. His excitement broke the tension, but Sarah felt torn. Yeah, that's great, Jake. She said, forcing a smile. But her gaze shifted back to Mike. Maybe you should, he started, but she interrupted him, her voice trembling with emotion. What's a neighborhood challenge if it's built on past mistakes? The question hung between them. Mike looked at her, pain flickering in his expression. I can help, Sarah. I want to help. I'm not that person anymore. Trusting you is hard, she admitted, her voice barely a whisper. Mike took a breath as if gathering courage. I understand. You don't have to decide right now, but I want to be part of something positive. I want to help you keep this alive. A flicker of hope ignited within her, but it was doused quickly by fear. She had fought so hard to build this new path, to heal after everything. What if you just end up leaving again? I won't, he insisted firmly. I promise. The murmurs of the crowd faded as Sarah wrestled with her thoughts. The energy around her felt electric, filled with both the whispers of possibility and caution. What if Mike truly had changed? But could she afford to trust him after all that had happened? She was on the brink of a decision that could either mend the past or entangle her in its shadows again. In that moment, everything hung in the balance: hope, community, and the bonds that could either strengthen or break apart. As people spoke around them about the next meeting, Sarah felt the weight of choice pressing on her shoulders. She could feel her heart racing, anticipation and dread mingling with each beat. What do I do? She thought, caught at the crossroads of reconnecting with someone who had once meant so much. With a deep inhale, she looked back at Mike, who stood waiting, his eyes steady with vulnerability. Unbeknownst to Sarah, the answer was only a heartbeat away, just like the unfolding uncertainty of this very moment. The crowd buzzed with chatter, laughter, and the sounds of community gathering. But for Sarah, all that noise felt distant, like echoes in a cavern. Her heart thudded in her chest, a mix of fear and hope entwined in each beat. She stole a glance back at Mike, his presence bringing up a whirlwind of emotions she thought she had buried. "Sarah, I get it," he said, reading her distress. "You don't have to rush anything. I just want you to know I'm here if you need me." His words were earnest, laced with a vulnerability that caught her off guard. "You say that now, but how can I know it's true?" she challenged, feeling the strength of her resolve falter under the weight of their history. Jake, ever optimistic, jumped in again. "Come on. It's like a second chance for everyone. We can make this place shine again." He didn't have all the layers of history weighing him down. To him, it was simple: everyone deserves a new beginning. Sarah smiled at Jake, but her gaze lingered on Mike, who was nervously licking his lips as if trying to figure out the next step. She took a hesitant step closer, feeling the pull of familiarity, yet wary of the thorns hidden beneath the blooms. "What do you really want, Mike?" Her voice broke the silence, cutting through the hopeful chatter buzzing around them. Every eye turned to him, the air thick with anticipation. "I want redemption," he admitted, his voice strong yet shaky. "I know I messed up. He hesitated, the memories clearly haunting him. "I was lost. But I've changed, and I want to help the neighborhood." "What do you mean by help?" she asked, her tone softer but still protective. "How can I be sure this isn't just another moment of you trying to make yourself feel better?" "Because I feel responsible," he said urgently, his eyes locking onto hers with an intensity she hadn't seen in years. "These walls, this community, it shaped us. I want to give back what I took away." Part of her wanted to believe him, to rekindle a friendship that once burned brightly. But another part screamed at her to walk away, to guard her heart from a flame that had burned her before. Mike took another step toward her. "We can plan something for the neighborhood. Just like when we were kids. Remember the community cookouts? The block parties?" Sarah fought to keep her emotions in check, memories flooding her mind: the sense of barbecue, laughter echoing down the street, kids running free as their parents shared stories and dreams. "I remember," she replied, her voice almost a whisper. "Let us bring that back," he urged, a hint of desperation creeping into his tone. "Let us organize something together. Prove that I'm here to stay." Her heart raced at the thought of reclaiming that joy. Yet lingering doubts soured the idea. Trust was hard-earned, and she didn't want to be a fool again. What if it all falls apart? What if you leave again when things get hard? "I won," he vowed, his sincerity breaking through her defenses just a little. "This time it's different." The murmurs of the crowd faded back into focus, a backdrop of hope waiting for her decision. "Give me a chance, Sarah," he pleaded, vulnerability etched across his face. "Let us not let the past decide our future." Sarah took a deep breath, feeling the tension ebb and flow inside her as her mind raced. Was she strong enough to invest in something that could either rise from the ashes or return her to the depths of despair? As the crowd's excitement picked up around them, Jake's beaming face was infectious. Somewhere in her heart, hope flickered again, battling her fear. "Okay, Mike," she said finally, voice trembling yet resolute. "If we do this, we do it together. But one misstep and I'm out," he finished, his face serious, but a small flicker of relief danced in his eyes. Sarah nodded but knew the real challenge was just beginning. Could they really rebuild trust? As she stepped back to hear Jake talk about plans, a sudden unease settled in her stomach. What if reaching for the past meant dragging up everything painful along with it? The stakes were high, but the thrill of possibility sparkled in her veins. But in the shadows of her heart, she wondered, did she have what it took to navigate the tangled web of friendship, choices, and the redemption they both desperately sought? The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of activity, hope, and uncertainty. Sarah, Mike, and the growing team of Maplewood residents met weekly, planning what they now called the Neighborhood Unity Festival. The aim wasn't just celebration, they wanted to weave together the diverse threads of Maplewood's fabric. They envisioned a day where voices would be heard, fears acknowledged, and friendships forged anew. Sarah felt invigorated, despite the shadows of doubt still lurking at the edges of her mind. On the surface, everything seemed to be falling into place. Families came together, brainstorming activities and filling the air with laughter and chatter. From safety workshops to food trucks and community games, it felt electric with possibility. But as each day drew closer to the festival, an undercurrent of anxiety bubbled beneath her skin. The day of the festival arrived bright and sunny, a perfect backdrop against the vibrant decorations lining the park. Families poured in, a sea of familiar faces mingling with newcomers. The smell of grilled burgers wafted through the air, mixing with the sweet aroma of cotton candy. Everything looked picture perfect. Yet, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that the true test of their unity was yet to come. As the opening ceremony began, Sarah took a deep breath, her heart pounding. Standing on the makeshift stage, she scanned the crowd, feeling the weight of their shared journey, the laughter, the arguments, the moments of connection. Then she turned to Mike, standing beside her, his gaze serious yet hopeful. This was their moment, and she was glad they were in it together. "Welcome, everyone." Sarah's voice rang out, filled with conviction. "Today, we celebrate not just our differences but the strength we have when we come together as a community." Cheers erupted from the crowd, amplifying her courage. She felt their energy lift her spirits. Let this festival be a symbol of our commingling stories, a reminder that we can find common ground even amidst our differences. Mike stepped forward, excitement lighting his face. "We've all come from different paths, but today, we're sharing a road. This festival is about more than fun, it's about embracing change and healing." The crowd roared their approval, but anxiety gnawed at Sarah. What if the past came back to haunt them? The festival rolled on, a joyful cacophony that filled the park. Children laughed at the games, while adults shared stories over freshly grilled food. As evening settled in, the colorful light strands twinkled over laughter and vibrant conversations, creating a warm tapestry of joy. But it was clear tension still lurked, old divides hadn't vanished entirely. In moments of transition, groups would drift, some clinging to their pasts, others ready to unite, and the divide shifted like the wind. Yet, Sarah observed the connections being forged, how the reluctance began to fade as old traditions intertwined with fresh perspectives. Debbie, once a voice against newcomers, was now sharing laughs with a newer family over pie making. "See that?" Mike pointed out as they watched friends build bridges where once there were walls. His eyes sparkled with determination. "We're making a difference." But as dusk fell, a raised voice sliced through the cheers. Sarah's heart dropped. A familiar figure stood at the periphery, Debbie, her face flushed with anger and eyes ablaze. "This isn't what we agreed on. You promised us you'd respect our traditions." The crowd fell into a nervous silence, moments of hope hanging delicately in the air. Sarah's gut twisted. "Debbie, no one's here to erase traditions. We're celebrating all of Maplewood." But her words were drowned in the tide of old fears. Debbie's voice rose again. You don't know what this means for us. As the crowd murmured, Sarah took a step forward, heart racing. She had to address the raw emotion flowing through them. I understand the fear. Change is hard, especially when it feels like it threatens your home. But can we stand here, together, and acknowledge that we all want to belong? Silence enveloped the park as deliberation crossed many faces, old friends and new settlers looking into each other's eyes, vulnerability mirrored in everyone's expression. Can we stop seeing change as loss? Mike added, his voice steady. Can we understand it as a chance to grow and create something more? Then something beautiful happened. A voice rang out from the crowd. An older resident stepped forward, eyes glistening with tears. I remember the cookouts, the way they brought us together. We need that now more than ever. With that voice echoing through the crowd, conversations began to spark, and people began to share. Fears turned into dialogues. Old hesitations lifted, and laughter began to flourish. As the night wore on, the glow from the festival began to warm Sarah's heart. She glanced at Mike, who returned her gaze with a soft smile. They had navigated the storm together, confronting old wounds to create room for healing. Underneath the stars, Sarah realized she had built something whole and real. It wasn't just about survival, it was about thriving together. As the festival continued to fill with love and laughter, she felt the ties binding everyone in shared hope. In those moments, it became clear, they weren't just neighbors, they were family. As the last of the day's light faded away and the crowd moved towards the final celebration, Sarah breathed deeply, feeling relief wash over her in warm waves. They had fought the odds, and together, they had emerged stronger, and for the first time in a long while, she allowed herself to truly believe a future of unity and love was within reach, rippling through the heart of Maplewood, one small yet profound connection at a time. The moment was theirs, but the journey was only just beginning. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, and comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Only true fans understand how important these simple actions are.